Hello everyone and welcome to the Grumpy Surfer podcast. I'm your host Ads Lyson. My guest today is a Royal Marines Commando Corps legend. He spent the last 32 years serving in the Majesty's Armed Forces and served and operated in more countries than I've had hot dinners. It was a true treat to sit down and talk to him about his early career and also his family's lineage in the Royal Marines. So please enjoy a Grumpy Surfer's conversation with my friend Matt Wildgoose. Matt Wildgoose, welcome to the Grumpy Surfer podcast. How are you doing?
Not too bad, pal. How are you?
Yeah, very good. How's life at the moment, all right?
Yes, not too bad. It's obviously nothing much changes in the mess. At the moment, we seem to be doing quite a lot of decorating, so which obviously needs it. But yeah, it's not much changes down there.
Yeah, cool. So at the moment, you're currently the Sergeant's Mess Manager at 4-2 Commando, yeah?
Sure I am.
What sort of job role do you have there? You know, what's your day-to-day business?
Well, it's basically the accounts, and I am really the landlord for the RSM. So the RSM, privileged as that job as a W01, has his own bar, and I run the background of it, the finances, some of the organisation. So when a W02 gets given a function, for example, he would run it as he wants it. But because I've done so many, they tend to come to me and just say, look, have we done this before? Have we done that before? What would be new? And I've done a format for them now and then give it to them and say, this is, you could use this or you could use that. But if you use this guy, he does it for free, or he's an ex-bootneck or former bootneck. So I try and keep it within the family of the Corps and guys who I know have just gone outside to try and keep it with us. Why use someone who does that when you've got, like the Magic Marine, for example, is a classic example. Use that when we've got a former Marine there who would, work from it. And actually, because of the stuff that he's done now, he's got quite famous,
Yeah, nice. I feel a little bit quite privileged, and you're going to probably cringe while I'm saying this, is that you to me, being in anti-tanks, before I was a PTI, you're a little, well, you still are, a bit of a Corps legend, to me anyway. When I first passed out of training and then subsequently did my anti-tanks course and so on and so forth, your name always cropped up. And then when I eventually met you here in 2003, was 2003 the end of Telek?
Just after Iraq, wasn't it?
Yeah, when I joined support company, you were there, and I was like, this is going to sound really cheesy, but I was like, is that Matt Wildgoose? It's like, yeah, it's Goose. And yeah, it's your name sort of like has a following with it. You probably don't think that, but
I suppose that's a bit like when I joined tanks. It was people like BJ Farramond and Steve Isaacs. They were proper old school tankies who had all not necessarily all been down south, but had all these war stories, and what they said went a lot better. Oh, sorry, won't a lot better, but
just
what
put it in
said,
a little bit, like sort of like there you go.
Is that there?
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah.
So people like Steve Isaacs and BJ Farramond, when I joined, they were the names of who were Pucker legends as anti-tanks. So it's quite nice to hear that you said that. I didn't realise that.
No, it is, and there's a lot of other names. From my time. Do you remember Gogsy?
Yeah.
Doddy.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention surnames. Dogsy.
Yeah, Dog.
Yeah,
He's officer now, isn't he?
He's now an officer. Yeah. Names like that, just kind of fly about a little bit, and people are listening to this like, I have no idea what you're talking about, but these are kind of like legendary names that you kind of hear as you go through, and in the Royal Marines Commandos, being quite a close, small knit community as well. Yeah, you always hear those names knocking about, whether you know them or not is completely different, isn't it?
Yeah, and being tanks, you'd only have 3 troops, so there'd be 40, 42 and 45. So you only ever went to those 3 troops, so you'd know of, even if you hadn't met them, you knew of them. And so it was quite nice, and obviously my era, we all went through together, and it's almost as if we grew up together, like Briggsy and people like that. And Pob went outside as a corporal, but Briggsy was a colour sergeant, and he would have made a fantastic sergeant major. And people like Johnny D, Why he never made RSM, I do not know. You know, he's the Astag is in now, but
Yeah.
people like that are fantastic soldiers. But I thought within tanks, because as a tanky, you do the GD role, but you just, you know, you use a bigger weapon system, and that's why I went tanks, because of that. You know, after an island tour, got pinged to go to logs, and it was the only way I could get back into a commando unit was to do something along those lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's go back a little bit. So we'll talk about, you know, the early part of your family. So your dad was in the Corps, wasn't he?
Yeah, my old man did his 9 years in the Corps. He did a little bit less than that, but yeah, he was a CL2. Never actually did his juniors. He was in 4.5, 4.2, and I think based in Eastney in those days. Eastney, Stonehouse. But yeah, he was a CL2, so he's one of the original MLs in the early 50s.
So when did he join up?
So he joined up in 52.
52.
Yeah, and went out in 60, so that was just short of obviously 9 year. He's 9-year Marine.
So we were just in things like
He's at Egypt, Suez, and fought in Cyprus in the Troodos Mountains.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. So he's got 3 bars to his GSM. In fact, the old GSM they used to call the 4B2 because the colours looked like, you know, Pusser's cleaning cloth.
Yeah.
So on his 4B2 he's got 4 bars on it. In fact, he never got his Suez bar. I had to claim that for him years later because he didn't rate it as a war, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so I got that for him.
Did he ever, when you were growing up, did he ever spin any like stories or anything?
Do you know
like
what?
that?
I knew he'd been in the Corps, and I think my brother came back from school and he was talking about what they'd done in history, and he said, "Dad, were you in the army? It sounds awesome." And he went, "No," and I remember my brother being like really disappointed, and he went, "No, son, I was a commando." He never actually said he was. He said the Corps, but he never said Marines. He always said, "No, I was a commando." And I suppose that's because he grew up during the war, and commandos would have been on the wireless and commando raids, and we were like, "Commando, what's that?" You know, and then, you know, he'd never really span us any war stories, and I almost didn't know he'd been in the Corps until my brother joined up, because my brother's so much older than me. And then when my brother passed out, the house became like the drill shed. It just every King Squad photograph, and every picture went up. But my dad, wouldn't have known he was in the Corps until my brother joined up.
Did your brother join up when you were still at school? Did he?
Yeah. So he's 8 years older than me, so I'd have been only 10.
Okay.
When he joined up. So no, in fact I was less than that because it was 8 years. So he joined at 16, so I would have been 8.
Oh, man.
So 7 or 8. So
yeah.
So my brother coming home, and my brother was a legend in his day, well, still is in my eyes. And, and he'd come home with stories. So I'd got a little bit bored of my dad's war stories because it was all about war. And when you're 14, 15, interested in girls and smoking maybe. And then my brother came home from Hong Kong, 3 years in Hong Kong, started spinning these bits of going ashore and the lads and of course you don't see from your dad's point of view the bagging off stories, the war, going ashore stories. And then my brother started telling these stories of, actually what the social life is about. So I like the idea of the soldiering, but the social life, I was like, that sounds awesome.
Yeah. I guess it's like now, you've got kids, I've got kids. It's one of those things, isn't it, where you try and tell your kids something or spin a few stories to them and you're like that, fucking cheers, Dad.
Yeah, very much.
And they don't really listen. But then, when you got siblings like brothers or sisters, you're kind of feeding off, especially older ones, if there's an 8-year difference, you're kind of feeding off their experience a little bit and almost like trying to emulate what they're doing. You kind of feed off them, don't you?
So I joined cadet before then. My brother gone to the Falklands, so at school, and of course living in Derbyshire, it wasn't like down here where you knew of people who'd gone up there, up in Derbyshire. Hardly anyone knew anyone in the forces. So suddenly my brother going to the Falklands, and suddenly the Marines, the Corps being on telly every night, and then it suddenly hit home that that people were dying, and I remember watching Crossroads with my mum and dad, and John Knott came on and said HMS Sheffield has been sunk. And my mum going, looking at my dad. And my dad wouldn't have known. My dad just went, "Oh yeah, it's a frigate. Don't worry, he wouldn't have been on that." You know, we didn't know where he was. You know?
Yeah.
And I remember suddenly going, "Oh my God, you know, my brother could die here." You know, and I was 8, and then going to school, and people were going, "Oh, is your brother dead yet?"
Oh, really?
Yeah, you know, it was like, you know, kids are evil, aren't they, to each other?
Yeah.
You know, and you're like, fucking hell, you know, Jesus. You know, and it was quite a bit of a... So when he did come home, it was even more hero worship, you know, and then the stories, of course, like Hong Kong and stuff like that, and then going to Northern Ireland, but, you know, the stories. And then I remember joining cadets and having all these magazines, you know, combat survival magazines, and looking at the pictures of all these ponchos and, you know, and how to build a whatever it was. And looking at my brother's forts, and I remember looking at this poncho, and it was in the Combat and Survival magazine, and then my brother's forts, and in the photographs, like the poncho was rigid and not a crease. And I went to my brother, "So your poncho looks better than the one in the magazine." And he just went, "Well, because it's a pongo." He just shrugged his shoulders. And I went, oh yeah. It just never occurred to me that my brother would be better than the person in the magazine. You know?
So if anyone's listening, they don't understand what pongo means. Pongo is a derogatory term that we use, or what we call jack speak for someone that's in the army.
Yeah. I'm talking about infantry regiments now. I'm not talking about specialists either, i.e. people who are educated, like you get certain engineer regiments, and
Yeah.
I'm talking about certain egg and thistle regiments that you know. Yeah, so that you know, me hero worship my brother, and then having my dad in the corps as well. My mum really got her seen off. She met my dad when he was just leaving the corps, and then obviously as soon as my brother joined up, you know, all she's ever known is war after war after war. In fact, we've covered, obviously missing not every operation, but between me, my dad and my brother, we've covered more or less every major conflict that the UK, especially 4-2, have been involved with since 1952.
Yeah, it's crazy to think, isn't it? I mean, you know, I've talked about this before, where I feel a little bit privileged in a way that when I joined the Corps in 2000, that I just so happened to hit it in the right time, where, I mean, I suppose in a way it's good for being a soldier, but negative for world press, where the Twin Towers happened, and then, you know, subsequent things happened after that, Afghanistan, Iraq, and all that sort of thing. So from a soldiering point of view and a warfighting point of view, I hit it at the right time. And
yeah, definitely. Yeah.
But the last major conflict, bar Ireland, would have been the Falklands.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So we sat, and I thought I'd done a few things, and then you'd hear like the tanky legends, you know, the Isaacs and BJ Farraman and all them that talk about real wars. You know, I thought, well, I've actually been in Northern Ireland and done a bit of policing. You know, and as a 3-year Marine, you thought you'd done a little bit, and then you actually listen to soldiers that actually done stuff. You're like, oh wow, you know. So yeah, I totally agree. And when September 11th happened, you know, I went with 10 years with one medal, then suddenly got a medal every year. You know, from September 11th. You know, I just happened to be in 40 when it happened. And we were on Safe Syria, so we were literally next door. Everyone says, "Oh yeah, they sent the Marines in first; they're the best." Well, they sent the Marines in first because we were literally next door, you know. So 40, you know, went straight in.
So let's go back a little bit. So you're looking at magazines, and you know, you're talking to your brother about, look at this poncho, and you know, I'd probably say it's like combat survival magazines and shit like that. So what made you turn and go, do you know what, I'm going to join the Corps too? Or was it kind of inevitable, you were always going to do it anyway?
I think it was always going to be that case, no matter what. And I remember people saying, "Oh, what happens if you don't get in?" And that was just what? What do you mean not going to get in? And it was just, you know, I remember at the careers office at school saying, "Well, you've got to plan to go to college because you might not get in the Marines." And I remember just thinking, "Are you crazy? Of course I'm going to get in." And it was just almost like a booting attitude of, I will win, I will be there, and I'm going to pass. And I think that's because the way I was brought up, where my dad was, after my dad left the Corps, he was a fire officer, part-time fireman, but he ran his own unit, and he ran it like a bootneck, a chilled attitude, but stern rules, and this is how you do it properly, and that is one rule, and that's it. Yeah. That's how he ran it, and I was just brought up like that. You can do that. If you're good at it, then you might be able to be lazy at it. But if you can't do it, then you've got to do it the right way, or the pusser's way. But like my brother used to say, there's a fine line between pussers and professional. And you know what? You're having a go at him. He's doing it right. So it was always, I'm joining the Corps, and that was it. I think I'd like to have thought early on, because my dad had been LC2, and my brother was a corporal at the time. I wanted to beat him, so for a bit I was saying I'm going to join the Corps as an officer, but I'm just too bone. I just never had it to educationally to do that. But I loved doing the Fizz. I was 16 when I joined up. So
did your brother help you with the training and stuff? Did he? Or?
He taught me some real good basics. Like he taught me how to do a regain. Well, in fact, my dad taught me how to do a regain when I was 6.
Oh, really?
And
that's crazy.
So we had, because we lived in Bakewell in Derbyshire, we lived a place called Lumpford, which behind us is a wood. So my dad built the Tarzan assault course in the woods. Jen.
That's mental.
Yeah. And so we had a Tarzan assault course. My dad and my brother built a fire trench with nightsticks. Explain what just crazy jungle routine, really. And my dad, being a gamekeeper before he joined the Corps and after, he'd say things like, "Oh, you get a thing called hexi-blocks." Well, my brother said that actually, because my dad said, hexi-blocks don't start. Use PE. He liked him PE. That's a bit crazy. And my brother used to say, "Oh, don't try and light them. They're a nightmare in the wind. Just carry some lighter fuel and squirt it on and light it." So loads of little tips like that. Like my brother's saying in the field, if someone's got a straight fag who smokes in the field and it's dry, he's a good soldier. And you know what? That's pretty not far off, because he can keep his fags dry in this weather. You know what it's like on Dartmoor.
Yeah.
Little things like that. I remember a brother saying, when you pass out a training, he said, it's a bit like driving. You learn to pass your test, then you learn to drive. That's like being a bootneck. You learn to pass out, and then actually you go to a unit and learn how to do it properly. You can learn to cheat in a way as long as you achieve the aim. So they helped me that way. And obviously doing regains as a hobby did quite well, especially when it came to training, and climb a rope. So I could climb a rope as a little boy, not just struggling with your hands and getting that strange feeling, but using your legs. And so that really, really helped. And then he taught me marksmanship principles as well, and explained, because he was a PW, explained what they were instead of being shouted at and not bullied in training, but not quite understanding and being thrashed for not understanding. He explained what it was and why you did it. And so little things like that really did help. As a nod.
Yeah, well, of course it would. I mean, like, if your brother would have been a PW, platoon weapons, I think I'd have been all right too, instead of fearing for my life.
Yeah, exactly. Time. And I still fear for my life. You're still scared of the training scene. But he was, I think he'd just done his PWs as I was joining up. Then my first summer leave, he was waiting for his first team to join up. And so he'd go, "Right, where's your affairs folder?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm on leave. Leave me alone. No, get your affairs folder out and have a look." And I was like, "Oh my God." But I had an awesome affairs folder. So when I went back to work, and so when we went back after your 3-week leave, and everyone else was like, "Oh God, I spent 6 weeks here." I think I'd done 3 weeks on leave, and everyone I'd been doing speed marches every day with my brother. But we'd gone ashore every night, but we did speed marches every day, and rewrote my affairs folder. So you can't read that. And I was like, "Well, that's all right, isn't it? It's just he made me rewrite it, which stood me in brilliant stead, really."
Yeah.
But I wasn't expected to do things like that on my first leave.
So when did you join the Corps?
So it would have been 26th of June, 1989.
1989. I would have been 8. 8 years old.
That's all right nowadays. So sergeants now in the mess. That's before they were born, some of them.
There are people now joining the Marines where that hadn't even been born yet when I joined. So it kind of puts it into context a little bit sometimes, doesn't it? Because I think every single bootneck, whether you're still serving or you've left, still have Peter Pan syndrome, don't they?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
And And one of the things that kind of hits me a little bit is that I'm still doing the same things now as what the 16, 17, 18-year-old lads are doing now when they pass out of training, which is kind of, I don't know, is that a good thing on my behalf, or is it just stupid because your body's going to fall apart when you're older? I don't know.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I purposely came and saw you last year when I've been in 30 years and did a 4 miler, because I wanted in my head, I can still do it, do a 4 mile speed march and try and do it. I think we were 7 seconds over. But we did it, and now it was just like, I will do this, I will do this,
You weren't 7 seconds over, you were bang on the money.
Oh, I thought it was 7 seconds over.
No, I'm pretty sure you were.
Put it on the Strava, it was that, because I got a Will's amount of abuse from old oppos.
Oh, no, what? Because we'd, on my watch, because it's a little bit older, it cuts out some places because you don't get the GPS signal.
Right, do you hear that, H-Rob? I remember you slating me on their Facebook.
Yeah. Tell him to thin out. Tell him to do it when he's your age. See what happens. From having all this advice from your brother and your dad and going through those gates, just put it right up here. There we go. Getting all that advice from your brother and your dad before you joined up, do you remember how you felt stepping off that train platform and going up for like your day one, week one?
Yeah, I mean, it was when I'd done it wasn't called the PRMC in there. I'd done my PRC, and I remember them being. I was more scared on that, and there was loads of TA guys who had been in the RMR, and I think I was the only junior there, so and I had to take time off school to go and do it. I was more scared then than actually joining up, because I'd learnt so much about and knew so much about Lympstone, and also I was aided in the advantage by my dad and my brother saying, look, everyone's going to feel the same way, don't worry too much about it. So I think I was more scared of the PRC than I was actually joining up. And like everyone had been in the cadets, they expected to be underwater knife fighting the next day. I didn't realise there'd be half man, half ironing board for the first couple of weeks, ironing and using starch and pulling boots, and it was just, oh wow, what's all this about? But I didn't know any different. I was 16 and you got told off at school, and that's what I think some of the older ones found it harder because they were like, not used to being treated like a child. I suppose I still was a child, and I acted like a child, and I don't think until I'd been to Ireland, I think I did a lot of apologising to lads who I'd been in training with years afterwards when I bumped into him, because I literally was a kid, acting like a child as well.
You get to, I mean, I was 17, 18, and even then I feel like I was still mentally immature, physically capable, unaware I was physically capable because of that immaturity mentally. And I think sometimes that can be, like you're saying, that it can be a good thing or a bad thing. Yeah. If you've had a little bit of worldly experience behind you, then, you can lean back on that a little bit. But then if you literally just coming out of school and all you know is that you're trying to, get Jesse Smith's nicks down or have a kiss behind the bike shed, that's all you kind of know. And then you put into like the real world. Yeah,
exactly, yeah.
You kind of just... You're never in front of it. You're always behind it, trying to catch it up.
Yeah. I mean, I remember going down to the Nod's Head. It's Turk's Head, isn't it? In
Turk's Head, yeah.
So I had my first beer in there and want desperately to have a beer. And suddenly realised I'm not going to get served here, especially when you just had your hair cut. And, not only was I 16, I looked 12. And I had...
That's you.
That's my mobile, isn't it? Going to get my first beer in the Nod's Head, and suddenly realised I'm not actually going to get served here. But with me was a lad called Brumdooley. Do you remember Brumdooley?
I remember he was here when I first joined back here like 3 years ago.
In Brum, I mean, heart of gold, that man. And I think he's actually still in the Corps actually. And so he was 10 years older than me. So he was 26, and he went, "Oh, you're not going to get served, mate. I'll buy you a beer." And I'll always remember that. Yeah, Chris Dooley. And the most unfortunate man ever, got pot belly, horrendous Brummy accent, this unfortunate birthmark on the side of his head, and the tiniest cock you've ever seen in your life.
Someone's got to, haven't they, though? Someone's got to have a small one. Yeah.
But excellent guy, and he'd been in the TA before and got his green lid through the TA, which is unusual. In fact, the TA unit he got it, I was a PSI of years later, permanent staff instructor with the RMR. That they transferred over to the RMR, that detachment. So years later, I actually went to where he was taught. But he was he's a great guy. Bit of a flapper, but great guy.
So when you passed out of training, where did you end up after that?
I came here 4-2.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, so my brother and my dad had all come to 4-2 from training, so it just seemed right that I should follow in their footsteps. And I begin to regret it at first because 40 and all the other units all either went to Northern Ireland before I did, or had one-offs like Kurdistan or the First Gulf War, whereas 4-2 to do ships detachments. But I missed out on all that because obviously I was still a junior when I passed out. So I wasn't sent, funny old thing. Well, why would you choose a junior?
Yeah, so if you're under the age of 18, you can't deploy, can't you?
So I was just 17 when I passed out. So, but I was unfortunate by going to M Company. And I say that because it was horrendous. The bullying was horrendous, and I've never seen it since. Or I wouldn't want to see it. I remember being a troop sergeant going, if I ever come across people like that, I'm going to run you out the Corps if I can, because they were horrendous. Absolutely. It's just not on.
Give a couple of examples.
Well, they're called Daz Timbers. Remember Daz? They actually set fire to him.
Really?
They actually poured naphtha on him.
He never told me that.
Fucking yeah. That's fucking not on. This is not like funny stuff. This is fucking out of order. There's two guys who they'd been to Belfast, so they were fucking legends. Apparently, been there in the Corps 3 years, and one of them, one was 28, and he was just a fucking bully, big tall ginger cunt, And I always said if I ever came across him, I'd kill him. Literally, if I came across him in Iraq or an opportunity, I would kill him. And the other one was a good soldier, but he was a bully. I mean, horrendous bully. And it was horrible. Absolutely, I've got fag burns still to this day in the back of my neck. They're cunts. And it wasn't until I went to L Company after a year of fucking horrendous bullying. It wasn't our fault we didn't go to fucking war. And apparently it was our fault. What would you know? You just fucking out of training. I went to L Company, and suddenly people like Ed Stout and Robbie Roberts, who'd been in the same time, what do you mean you don't know this? Instead of getting filled in, they go, oh, no problem, mate, I'll show you. And suddenly, you're allowed to ask questions by people who'd done the same tours, but L Company was completely different. And they were genuinely excellent. Ed Stout's still a friend to this day. Robbie Roberts, brilliant. I think he made a W01, Robbie. In fact, Ed's a bloody lieutenant in the Navy now, isn't he? And he got to W01 as well. And they were genuinely, oh, you don't know? Oh, no problem. Suddenly flapping on, go, what's he going to do? Oh, yeah, I'll show you how to do it. Oh, we'll reteach that. And suddenly, oh, right. Oh my God, I remember my brother and my dad talking about this Corps, not the one I'd just previously been with in the M Company, where, with a weak corporal who didn't stick up for us, and obviously a weak sergeant, he didn't know anything about it. He's an outlier, so he went out, it was just horrible days.
Yeah, I mean, I think I kind of came in maybe at a tail end of that, because I know when I went through training, it was, I mean, for me personally, it feels like I was the tail end of like maybe the old school.
But I don't think that's old school. They're just cunts. Because there was, if I went across to another company, like the people I talked about, they were generally done exactly the same things, but were willing to help you. Whereas, these were just bullies, and, not necessarily good soldiers either.
Yeah, but you probably, being a young lad, you probably thought that was the norm.
Oh, yeah,
to
I did.
an extent.
Yeah. I kept my mouth shut. And I remember letting it slip to my brother, and he went fucking ballistic. He was going to come down here, fucking, his big brother. And I was like, no, do not come down here, He was going to fucking tear the place apart,
Yeah.
And I was like, do not. And he died. And I remember even locking myself into my room in M Company because my brother had spoken to someone who just happened to be at CTC who knew one of these guys. And then he was like, oh, yeah, telling your brother, are you? And I was just like, fucking hell, I'm just talking to my brother. Down to reading your mail. Take your mail. It was just fucking...
That does sound something like you've get in a school playground, doesn't it?
Yeah,
A little
it's
bit
horrendous.
You know, the stereotypes of
Yeah.
like stealing your dinner money and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah,
Yeah, you wouldn't really expect that, would you?
My brother gave me a Normark for when I passed out. They took that. You know, the other one took my berry, the berry that I was presented with. They actually took that. You know, and I just, I said to him, I've lost it, you know. And he's like, "Fuck, that was the one you were presented with, you know." I never told them, obviously. It's just, just arseholes, you know. But luckily, I've never come across anyone since then like that. And one of them, I think he had a motorbike accident and got MD'd out, and it was almost as if there is a God, you know. You got what you deserved.
It's almost like that sits, because I'm looking at your face while you're talking about it. It sits quite deep with you, that does.
It does, yeah. Do you know what? It's almost a bit like PTSD in a way, you know. And the things I've been through has never been as bad as that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Even, some of the horrendous things we've seen in Afghanistan, at least I could go back and talk to people. We couldn't even talk to it, they wouldn't let. It was just horrible.
Yeah.
Horrible. And they were just belling, because what was I? Just 17 and I was 9 stone. Of course you're going to pick on, just arseholes. Yeah. But I don't really want to talk about that. It's just fucking, it's a blip in my career that was just horrendous, and joining tanks where, generally fucking good soldiers who generally have a laugh and enjoy themselves. It's that's I've spent more time in the Corps laughing and enjoying yourself and meeting genuine guys than that little time I had in my first year in the Corps.
Yeah, I mean, I've all gone through my whole career. I was quite fortunate that I did my anti-tanks course, 3 years out of training. And I did a bit of a swap draft with someone who didn't want to do it. They wanted to go on a boarding team out in the Gulf somewhere. So I took that off them, and it was probably the best thing I ever did. And even to this day, and when I was on a recruit training team, I used to tell the nods when they got to the tail end, one of the best branches you'll ever join is anti-tanks, because you've got the older guys that are a little bit more chilled out. You get a little bit more freedom because we know what it's like. Not all the hierarchy know exactly what anti-tanks do, so you get left alone as well. and it's super cool. And, you got the anti-tanks branch within the Corps. I mean, I don't know what it's like now, but it was like a proper niche, small community, and everybody knew each other, whether you were in Scotland, Plymouth, Taunton, or wherever it was. Like, you all kind of knew each other, and it was like, it was proper good, like,
Yeah. I mean, when I first got to tanks, it was, 3 big troops, and they were 80 strong, these troops. But we didn't have the equipment that what we got. Obviously, when we started going to war properly, we just never had. We were bloody masking taping Milans on top of 1-tonners. Eventually we got pin scours, and 40 broke down the pin scours and took the screens down, and made like these mobile anti-tank stalking units. And I remember doing God gunning, and there was me and Briggsy from 4-2 and Nutty, little Mark Edwards. Hey,
yeah.
Right. Hey, fellas.
I got a cracking story about him later on.
Excellent guy. He runs the cadets, major in cadets now.
Is he?
Yeah. So we went up and did some God gunning for 40, and I remember seeing, because we had likes of Wes and people like that in 4-2, and then we got to 40, and then suddenly it was Steve Isaacs and people like that, and Beej and all them, and they were doing proper anti-tank, stalking tanks, teaching people, turn the engine off the wagon, listen, tanks are loud, listen for them. And we were following them, and I was like, my God, I'm actually learning something here. This is awesome. They're letting the guys do it on their own, stalking in vehicles, in dead grounds, and it was just, get rid of, why have you got a trailer? I remember being saying that for years. Why have we got trailers on the backs of these wagons? What happens if we come into contact? We can't reverse. And they'd bin the trailers, hung everything off the sides, and it looked like, to me, like the old Paddy Mayne SAS Desert. And I thought, that looks awesome. They'd got GPMGs, spare GPMGs, had them, like, basically what a wagon in the Afghan would have.
Yeah.
A Jackal, but they were improvising, and it was brilliant. And they actually stopped the exercise. They had to stop Tessex and go, right, okay, we're gonna have to stop, go back because you've beaten. Tanks just won the whole exercise because they took out all the armour front, And so I took that knowledge straight back to 4.2, and we'd do TESX and win. And they'd actually stop the exercise and go, okay, right, we're going to have to do this. A bit like when the snipers did TESX, and they used to say, right, you're going to have to put more body armour around you with the test equipment because you're just stalling whole companies. We were doing that, and it wasn't until Commando 21 where it was a regular, because it wasn't until we found out, we just thought the norm at TESX was, yeah, you win, don't you? And it gets stopped and you have to go back, and it wasn't until my twos course, Army registers were going, oh, no, we get beat all the time. What do you mean you get beat? Well, they know the ground. What's that got to do with it? So the playing at soldiers era with tanks before it became Commando 21 was really, really enjoyable, because you had a massive troop and you'd have guys who wanted to go on the deployments, and you'd always go to that one section. So in 95, for example, I did 10 countries in 1 year, because you get blokes who genuine welfare, I can't do that, so they get put into that section. So you get all the keen Marines and keen corporals, keen ones in one section. And a section was 20 men in those days, 3 detachments and a sergeant and his driver. So you had 4 wagons, and you'd be attached to L Company. And then if there was, a unit exercise, and there was no tank threat to L Company, that whole section would then move to M Company. So you'd have 2 sections with M Company where the threat was. So, and you always, if you had enough numbers, you had a mobile reserve, which became the MSG in Commando 21. So you'd have this massive armoured front where you could move around the companies as and when, and have a proper battle plan. So in TESX, when it was all about armour, we did really well. We actually got noticed.
It was really weird, because do you remember when Commando 21 came in? Was I a Lance Jack then? A Lance Corporal? I can't remember. But I remember coming to M Company, and the OC was a new boss, and all the lads were off doing something, and they came to me and went, Corporal Lyson, do you want to go with the OC down to Warminster? They're testing this new computer kit where you sit in front of a computer, and the other companies and the enemy are there, and you plan your battle. And it's basically like playing soldiers, but moving the company groups and the units around the battlefield. That's basically on an OS map.
Yeah.
But you move all that around. And I was like, oh, it wasn't really an ask. It was kind of a voluntold. Yeah. And I went there, and it was really, really weird. I had a mate. He's obviously a major. I was a Lance Corporal, and I was basically running the whole company, because he didn't have a clue how to operate an anti-tanks troop and use the Marine troops to support the support ranks. So like the machine guns, the anti-tank weapons and stuff. And I just thought that was crazy, But then I took a lot away from that as well, saying, I was probably out of training maybe 4 or 5 years, and I was like that. I actually know something here.
Yeah. Well, I'd done my ones, even though I was still a corporal. I'd done my ones before Commando 21 came in. So I found it really frustrating, having seen how it works within the commando unit, this anti-armour plan, and it's called a goose egg, and killing areas, and how to plan. And as a sergeant, you were advised, look, the company commanders won't know. They are specialists, but in their own field, but they won't necessarily know anti-armour plans. So you need to advise them, and you were constantly taught as a sergeant to advise company commanders on a battle plan. And sir, this is what I can do for you. If I need your men to be 94s as it was then, or Carl Gustaf's actually 84s then 94s, to plug this area because of this dead ground, and we've got a dead ground here and dead ground there, and you plan your own area. So when it came to Commando 21, we could overlap all our battle cards as they were, and you should have no way in. And if there was a route where you couldn't fire into, that's where you put your 94s into. For example, got to Commando 21, and it found a lot of people out because you could hide in, like I said, you could hide in tanks, 80 strong, but a lot of people who weren't quite did the fizz and enjoyed the soldiering you suddenly, that section, you were a troop now, that 20-man section was there known as a troop. You then got a 1 pipistron training in charge of you, and then suddenly you were doing grab fizz every day. So the guys who'd hidden rapidly went to different SQs, and I don't like it here because you're permanently in a GD company, and they rapidly got found out. And I know for a fact there's people within Mortar Troop. If that would have happened to Mortar Troop, there's people who were in mortars who got very high. Perhaps they wouldn't have got as high because they would have been, their fizz. Clearly, that isn't about being a soldier, the fizz, but they would have been found out straight away and wouldn't have been able to stay with mortars, for example.
Yeah.
And it was a bit of an eye opener. Going, I think I went to M Company. Yeah, I did. Went to M Company as a troop sergeant, and it was suddenly right. On Tuesdays, we used to go up and get the BVs. We were going to Norway, or Pinskowers as it was then, after the one sunnies, and we'd spend the day chipping and painting and sorting out the wagons, sorting out the cam nets and all that. And when I said to do that on an M Company, they went, "No, you can't do that. You'll get the wagons when we go on exercise." I said, "Well, they won't work. You can't do that." And all the stuff that we'd practice to go and charge the boring stuff like charging the air bottles and getting the stuff like that's your anti-tank stuff. You're doing GD training. If you want to do stuff like that in your own time, you can do that on Wednesday and Friday afternoons. I thought, but this is essential stuff to the maintenance, and it let the battle plan down. In Iraq, we had no night vision because the TQ, who was a PTI, didn't know what a air bottle was. He goes, "Yeah, they're disposable." No, the battery's disposable. The air bottle's rechargeable. Oh, I've binned all them.
What?
So we had no Myra cover on the L4. Where's the unit UTE? Where's the UTE to test the equipment? Oh, that's way too heavy. We're not having that in the TQ stores. We've been that. But that's to test the equipment. So once we had an actual storeman who would have charged the air bottles and knew what the gear was, all that was just thrown out the window, and we had so much skill fade. AFV wasn't in the programme, and as a Marine, I hated doing AFV. I suddenly became the biggest spotter at it as a sergeant because we need to practice, especially when it's to Iraq. Like, guys, you're not going to see a close-up slide. You are going to see an image on the horizon.
So AFV is armoured fighting vehicles. So basically, when you're training to learn what different tanks are from lots of different fighting vehicles from different countries, we used little micro models, didn't we? That had like all the distinct features, like barrels where the fuel tanks sit, where the different barrels sit, the air extractors.
Fume extractor.
Fume extractor was on the barrel where that sits. The road wheels, where they sit, are they together? There's lots of different things combined with it, but it wasn't just tanks, was it? It was APCs, aircraft, helicopters.
And also, and there were certain people within the troop who were just amazing at AFV, and they would then tell you, the reason for this is, if you saw this type of vehicle and they're in pairs, it means it's flank protection, or if it's in threes, it means it's this, and motor rifle regiment. And what I thought was boring as a Marine, which was known as Soviet tactics then.
Gen Force.
Which then became Gen Force.
Yeah.
It was that's just old tactics. Of course, Iraq happened. And I said, well,
That's
if you see, hang about, we need to go back into all this. This is stuff that we were told we'll never need. You don't need that. You're being a dinosaur, being constantly being told you're a dinosaur. We don't need that. To suddenly, right, this is life's on the line here. Guys, if you see a T-455 fume extractor, God, I'm still reeling off now. That they work in threes. If you got 4, that's the company command, and there should be 9 in the troop, and so on in your old Soviet tactics. Suddenly that became very relevant. If you see pair, that means they're 2K away from the main force. That could be east or west. So that intelligence you're passing up is vital to the plan. So when we went to the L4, they had MTLBs, mini turret long back. I don't actually know what it actually stands for, but that's what we used to say. But MTLBs, now their job is to pull artillery D20s, artillery bits. So I remember being told that in Iraq, and I said, that means we're fighting an artillery unit. And I remember the OC going, well, how do you know that? Well, because that vehicle tows this equipment. Oh, we haven't been told that by Int yet. Well, I'm telling you now, we're fighting an artillery unit. That's where we're going, is an artillery unit.
Mm.
So it was little things like that that had been taught over the years by Eric Barber and Arthur E's course, so we all took the mickey out of. But actually, what he was teaching us was, my God, this is actual life-saving and intelligent stuff that we should have passed on.
It is a little bit crazy, isn't it? Because I remember doing that, and you'd have been exactly the same, like that. Oh, for fuck's sake, what are we doing?
Playing it with these little toys again.
And like, why am I learning this? We are never ever going to do this.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the realism kicks in, and like you say, you start seeing those. Start seeing those APCs, and you start seeing the different structures actually set out in front of you while you sat there watching on whatever optics it is, and you go, do you know what? This was actually taught for a reason.
Yeah. I remember Eric Barber, Dodgy Eric, who taught us on a threes course, saying, watching the news will never be the same again. You will see the news and you'll see, I think Chechnya was on at the time, and it'll never be the same. And it wasn't. You're like, oh my God, that's a sunset, that's T-72, and watching even the news today, I'll say, oh, that's such and such, and you can tell straight away by how China's come on in the world market, because Tiananmen Square, they had T-62s. Now, I don't even know what they've got now, but they definitely haven't got T-62s.
Got Transformers, that's what they are.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But it just goes to show how much that country's come on in 30 years, which tells me through AFE,
Yeah. So in the early 90s or the mid 90s to sort of like the early aughties, you were you just doing like island tours?
Yeah, so the lads I was with, Steve O'Connell, Chaz, Dave Taylor as he is now, Dave Pollitt, Titch, Bryant, Pob, all those guys were in the same troops, Dogsy, and we'd basically grown up together. We did Norway Island. We were very good at Norway, and very good at playing soldiers, very good at pretending to blow up tanks. So that's all we seem to have done, apart from you did the odd Caribbean tour and Curry Trails. And I love the Curry Trails and Belize. So Belize, and I did 3 Caribbeans as well, which is not quite the jungle, but it's hot enough and close enough to be a jungle. So I learned more soldering skills from anti-tanks, working in the jungle, and commando and jungle school as well, which I thought was fantastic. Brilliant soldier. I can understand why they do SF selection there. And on my first Brunei was got to jungle school, and they went, "Oh, you're not allowed to speak." So, what? Like called Dave Buxton, who's SF now, and we really like to speak. He's like, well, we'll start you off in 5 minutes, and then 10 minutes. Of course, the first 5 minutes of not speaking, no one spoke, and then the first 10 minutes, you don't speak until you start building up to a half an hour. Then it was an hour, and then it was a day. And then your field signals suddenly become, normality. And I remember pointing to the ring finger, and that meant your wife, and so you'd be able to sit there. I remember sitting opposite some of the mortars lads, pointing to your ring finger, obviously slagging off his missus, going, so your missus a one eye, like this, and then because you're not allowed to laugh, it's even worse because you started laughing, and then we learned to get each other on bites just before we were going into the next hour of not speaking. So I remember Dave Braxton saying, "Oh, fucking I'll be about Goose." And I was like, "No, what's that?" He had an ND, didn't he? And I was like, "No way." And then we weren't allowed to speak, so I couldn't even explain myself. Trying to explain yourself in sign language that he just made that up. But then blokes wouldn't speak to you. And I was like, well, no one's speaking anyway, but they wouldn't look at you. So I was so lonely. No one's even looking at me.
Quality.
Yeah, it was, those first Bruneis were brilliant. And, you learn so much, the trackers, the soldier. I think I read Devil's Guard when I did my first Brunei, and going, oh, what? This is pucker relevant. And I thought the soldiering there was awesome. And combats go black with sweat if you've been, as you know, doing operational tours. And it wasn't until I'd done some proper tours again, and people, oh, look how dirty he is, or look at them. Like, well, that's because that's sweat. It turns black. What do you mean it turns black? You've obviously spent no time in the field, and you rapidly. It's got a bit of a growth, and it's just little things you learn living in the field for I'll say a long time, oh yeah, carry a wooden spoon in the field. It doesn't make much noise. Well, a lot of crap in the jungle, it rots away. You either need a plastic spoon or a metal spoon. It needs to be tied to you because you're going to lose it, especially in Norway. You're definitely going to lose it because of all that crap you carry in your pockets. It goes everywhere.
Just pulling them out, it's like a snake's wedding everywhere,
God,
isn't it?
I remember one lad called Pete Lewis. He lost this is second-hand dit, admittedly, but he was in the few tech bean support company. He'd lost us. Well, we didn't know he'd lost a spoon, but he dripped and he got blisters after skiing 4K, and his feet were that cold. When he took his boots off, he found his spoon in his boot. Apparently, I mean, things like that. But I was always crap at skiing, even though Norway was, again, hard work. But I preferred the jungle. It was just, especially the live firing.
I liked I liked Norway and the Arctic environment purely because it's similar to the jungle, but I think your admin has to be more on the ball with it because if you haven't. And it does sort you out. So if you're one of these people that just pulls everything out and you've just got crap everywhere,
definitely. Yeah,
you're going to learn quickly that you can't do that. You haven't got time to do that. Otherwise, your fingers are going to fall off.
Exactly. Yeah. And you learn to be on sentry. You're not a minute to relieve someone on sentry. You should be a minute before. You learn really fine things. You're never late on sentry for someone in Norway. You rapidly learn to be 1 minute before. It's a good time to relieve someone on sentry, and your duvet boots, and if wearing duvet boots on sentry with moon boots isn't necessarily a good thing because they were the slippiest thing going down that communication trench and so on. And then you get there and you look in the trench and you're like, oh my God, especially if you've relieved it, what have they done in here? Because the white snow shows everything, sometimes I'll sit down the mess and I miss soldiering, but when it's weather like this, or going on sentry in the middle of the night, I don't miss that. But then again, the jungle, you sat up in your A-frame, and it was a different time. You actually got 12 hours in it, which again, this is awesome, apart from the prickly heat. But yeah, I mean, I loved going on display. It's like being me talking to you now. You can have a piss up in a fucking matchbox. It depends who you're with. I've been to some awesome places and had a shit time. But then I came into some being on Sunnybridge in a fucking cowshed and had a fucking hoofing time because it's who you're with.
Yeah, it's definitely a lot of things is very.
Let's get the heads 2 cents.
Yeah, that's right. I'll just pause it.
Give it a break.
And we're back.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that takes us up to like the early 2000s, doesn't it? So where were you? I love asking this question to people. Where were you during September 11th? Do you remember?
Yeah, I flew on September 11th.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, I've actually kept the boarding pass.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I just met my second missus. She's a bit of a bone hairdresser because it was quite funny. I was flying out to Cyprus to meet 40, and September 11th happened, and she said to one of her customers... Just
lift this up a little bit.
She said to one of her customers, is Cyprus near New York? Because I'd flown that day. So I actually flew on September 11th. So I was I'd just done my ones course, got ManReal to 40 for Kosovo. We didn't go to Kosovo. They sent the paras instead. From there, I went back to Lympston to start another draft, having just taken recruits through. And then went to 40 after that. And I joined 40 in the field at Bloodhound Camp. And as I landed, it was on in the naffy at Bloodhound Camp.
Oh, really?
And it was just like, oh my God, this is the way you go. That's where I first met George Gill, the sniper legend from the Falklands.
Yes.
Yeah, well, George lives in Princetown now. He was in the QMs, and then, George had 40 years in the Corps. 40 years. And I remember talking to George that night, and he said, we'll be going to Afghanistan. I'm thinking, we're never going to go to Afghanistan, no way. And so that was 2001, and then obviously went to Oman, and then Bravo Company went straight into Afghan. That straight away went to Kabul, I think it was, in Bagram.
Yeah, they weren't they doing security? They were doing the airfield security.
Airfield security for the SF, wasn't it? Because Delta Company, we were attached to the SEALs, which my young boy loves the idea that I was with the SEALs. Yeah,
because I was with X-Ray Company at 4-5, so we were actually we're at the camp down the road from you guys, and There wasn't that many people out there, lads from 40, was there, in that area?
Well, his brother come at Bagram. We went home, Delta Company, and then went back out and went on ship. We went on to Illustrious.
Okay.
And it was just joining the Love Tub. They'd been at sea 6 months when we got there, and I'd never known it. I'd been on Fearless, I'd been on Ocean. I thought I'd been on board ship quite a few times. And then we got to Illustrious, and I didn't realise there's a side of the Navy that had never met the Corps. Of course, you forget that the Navy's massive. And then the BWO, the equivalent to the RSM, the Fleet Jossman or whatever he is, stood down and there was 70 bootnecks from Delta Company on board Illustrious, and we were outnumbered. I think the Wren's outnumbered us 2-1. And he went, right, lads, we've been at sea 6 months. You are just fresh meat. He said there's more Wrens on board ship than there is of you. Just don't get caught, lads, all right? And, Matlows were stopping you and going, oh, you look lost. Do you want to go to I'll show you to the NAFI. And I thought, are these real Matlows? Is this real?
Yeah, are these real people?
Yeah, they're really nice.
Yeah.
And it never occurred to me that some Matlows have never met bootnecks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and it was just rapidly learning. Rapidly learn. But yeah, they were really on Illustrious. Yeah, and we had a good time on Illustrious.
I'm sure you did.
Yeah.
We'll leave that one there.
Yeah. Yeah, we did with the SEALs came on board with us, and we all thought, because we're bootnecks, that's why they're here. But the SEALs, what was he called now? Master Chief or something like that, crew chief, whatever they call that. He'd been at Poole, and he actually said, "Oh look, we've come on board because we can have a beer. All the American ships are dry." And then, so we were constantly training the 8 troop, which was like the GD troop. We had in those days a tank section and a heavy machine gun section. And so the guns would go on the boats. So as the SEAL team hit the back of the ship, they'd clear the rooms. The 8 troop lads would then fill the rooms afterwards, and so would we as tanks. And the guns would go down the side of the ship, could shoot anything that came out the front or try to escape. So that was the theory. So they went. And then we would always use tanks, so we were on board, and 8 troop and guns went off to do an exercise, and the actual balloon went up, and a real situation happened, so they had to send us. So it was great that the actual real operation that actually did happen, Operation Enduring Freedom for Delta Company, it was our section that did it. So we went from here onto Port George, loaded up, and then straight on and took down a ship called the Sakat, which I wasn't until years later I realised that Sakat in Arabic means holy war or something along those lines. And the Matlow said what they do is, it won't be called the Sakat. What they do is during the French fishing wars, when you get searched by the Royal Navy, then goes out on a big whatever APB whatever, and so everyone knows that ship's been searched. And then you'd go, so when they'd stop another ship, they'd go, oh, what's it called? And then they'd check this, whatever it was, when it was searched. And they go, oh, it was searched yesterday. I'll leave that one. So what they do is, these smugglers, they'd change the name of their ship to what had ever been searched the day before.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it makes sense, yeah. But this Matlow had done this, and it was him, a young lieutenant, had turned around and went, I've just come from such. It's called the Sakat. Have you checked the grid where it was searched? And it was somewhere like in the South China Sea. It's not the same ship. That's God knows how many thousands of miles away. And that's why we boarded it. And this oil tanker was that low in the water that water was running. Oh, in the middle bit. It was stacked up. And when Mega Gucci jumped off the boat, because we could literally walk onto it. We'd have to climb up. Ran weapon in the shoulder to go in the door, they'd actually welded themselves in. So there was no, right, they actually welded in. We actually got the Matlows to come back out, and undo the spot welds.
Oh, really?
And that was the first time I ever used PRRs. And it was just comical with PRRs. It was great that we didn't have to, because we was on board then for, I don't know how long, about a week. And constantly changing over the other team on the Fort George. And just talking on the PRRs was brilliant because you didn't necessarily have to be on your own to guard. I think we had about 17 crew members to guard.
So a PRI is the equivalent to like a walkie-talkie, isn't it?
The first headsets that everyone had.
Yeah, so if you didn't have a line of sight with someone, you're not speaking to them.
That's right, yeah. No, these were, because they were brand new, they worked about 3 decks down. But then again, it was a very small, I'd say oil tanker. It was a smaller oil tanker that you could come across. But it meant that we could split up to go to the heads or something along those lines. But it was a stinking, one of these ships that had been used in India. It was an old Russian ship from the 70s. It was horrendously falling apart. And we all said, right, we need to get as many portholes open as possible, because if this turns, we're all going down with it, because this is horrendous. There's no health and safety here.
What was in it that was keeping it low in the water?
It was toppers. Just it was smuggling oils and arms too, so we were told.
So it just had oil and weapons in it?
We don't know if it had weapons, but because I had one lad called Dave Playforth, Comedy Dave, his nickname was. And, you remember Comedy? Yeah, Dave.
Yeah, I remember Dave, yeah.
But Dave was a really keen King's Badgeman, top recruit, and he'd get bored. So I go, Dave, if you want to look, search the cabins. And some people, again, a bit old school, oh, what are you doing that for? But he found the logbook, which meant it proved where they'd been, because they'd hidden it, because the captain had just said, no, you do it yourself. Hence why we knew the Matlows on board to steer the ship. And it was quite funny. Cause Dave would be like guarding, and we let the captain have his cabin back, and you'd be guarding him on your own. So over the headset, he'd be like, Dave, kill him, Dave. In the middle of the night, shoot him. Join us in the sea, Dave. Yeah. But, and then we'd change over, and then we're working on the Fort George, and then obviously the Merchant Navy are somewhat different to the Royal Navy, so you get back on board. And by about 3 or 4 days of changing over, they wanted to get a little bit involved. So they wanted to clear us when we got on board. So I was like, okay, I wouldn't say for inspection port arms. And this young raving Navy guy from the Merchant Navy went, no, I know how to do it. So, okay, then. Open your guns. So we all started laughing, and then we said, no, just leave him to it. Guns released. And he gave us all these straight. He'd say to me, "Is that the correct order?" I'm like, "Yeah, that's bang on. That's brilliant."
Yeah, well done.
Yeah, well done. And he was just getting carried away with his strange commands, which was quite comical. Guns released.
So after that trip, so what? That was around the time of 9/11. Then did you do the invasion of Iraq, didn't you?
Yeah. So I came back. I was corporal then. Done my ones. Did my advanced. And as soon as I did my advanced, I was supposed to go at 4-5, and I thought, well, at 4-5, I've just had the luxury. They've just had Afghan. That was their baby. I bet they don't get the full brunt if we do go to Iraq. Yeah. So I swapped to come back to 4-2, thinking it was all 40. It would be 40 or 4-2 who do the big thing in Iraq as commando units. I'm not saying that 4-5 didn't, because they did.
Well, it was...
Yeah, they were split up in companies, weren't they?
Yeah, because I did it, and we were split up into like SF support. It was only...
similar to what we'd done in Afghanistan.
Yeah, so it was X-Ray Company. I think it might have been Zulu Company.
Yeah. Maybe
they got attached to the SAS and then to SB.
Yeah. And I was... so I went then back to M Company, as we were talking earlier, like as an FSG. I think we'll call FSTs then, actually. Fire Support Troops, or FSGs. Well, that's what they became anyway. And, we went onto the L4, and that's when we, as a troop sergeant, actually doing orders that you've been taught on your senior command course, and giving orders, and we're actually doing this properly. And the boss, doing proper battle anti-armor plans, and then advice, we should have, this is not anti-tanks, this is our baby, this is for real, so I think definitely 40 had the brunt of it, whereas we did all the stopping actions on the L4, and that's when we had the classic example where the Mickey took out me for a long time, where we missed the guy who was bringing in the artillery, and we fired a number of Milans at him and missed. Yeah, but the first people on our arcs that day, which again, because of their fee. But the GD lads were going to engage was J Company, because J Company had captured some Iraqi vehicles, and the first people in our arcs were J Company, and we were going to engage. But luckily, they'd taken their lids off, taken their helmets off and put green lids on, which really stuck out in the desert sun. And they put big Union Jacks over the front of the wagons. But certain people wanted to engage them, and we nearly took out certain elements of J Company.
Yeah, I think what people they don't understand with war is chaotic.
Oh, God, yeah.
And you can plan all you want on a map. You can have all these awesome, standard operating procedures for what happens if this happens, what happens if this happens. And you can drill, those anti-ambush drills or those contact drills. But as soon as something happens, or that first contact or round goes down, it all just goes out the window.
Well, what I found was, especially my first contact on the L4, was we were all Northern Ireland trained. Don't shoot, don't shoot, don't shoot. So when the opportunity did come, engage, the lad went, me? I went, engage! It was man, take me. And we almost had an argument. Yeah, engage there. And then as soon as he did fire, and then I had to literally argue with the next fire again. And we missed. And this guy got away. And, we decided it was the food party in this car that had been bringing in artillery. And we'd complain about, God knows how, Jan Richards, who fired, I think, the third missile. I think the windows were open and it literally went through the windows. I don't know how he missed it, but he did. Oh God, Mortars just happened to be walking past. Phil Cooney walking past at the time. He was the OC. I won't say a thing, Goose. I was like, oh no. And then when the opportunity arose again later on, a few weeks later, when we was actually in Basra, I learnt by my mistake, because I tried to give a full fire control order, full pussers section, the full all the way through. And actually we didn't. I should have done a brief, and when it came to doing it for real in Basra, knowing exactly what had happened about a week before, I just didn't even shout watch my tracer, just fired myself, and then everyone joined in. And of course, as well as me, once you're allowed to fire and everyone knows you're entitled to engage, is getting them to stop is the problem. It's not going to do it, stop. Okay. Yeah. I think Bugs's .5 picked this guy up and took him into a. Yeah, but there we go.
Yeah, those early days of the Milan and stuff. It was a good weapon system for the time, but your brother they would have been used in the Falklands.
Yeah,
before the Falklands as well.
Yeah, I remember. So the first person, the guy who took me on my threes course, mine and Briggs's and Pob's, on our threes course, was a guy called Eric Barber. We all called him Dodgy Eric. I remember saying to him, "Oh, Dodgy Eric's." And brother went, "Yeah, you might be a bit fat nowadays. Don't take the piss." In the 70s, he were renowned for filling in players in Northern Ireland. So, oh, really? And he was the first guy to engage with Milan on operations in the Falklands. And he told me the day afterwards, and it was a little bit like the day I just spanned then. And he said K Company had been bogged down on Harriet. They were attacking. They hadn't got comms. The other sections didn't know what was happening, so he went, right, engage. And they didn't have Mire in those days. They used to put a loom up, apparently, and fire. And when a loom popped or happened to pop, they then fired the Milan. And because he'd engaged first, all the other sections then joined in, which took Harriet. But it was because of Eric. And he should have got some. I don't even know if he got anything for that. He probably didn't, because he was just a dated span.
Yeah, or probably no one had seen him do it.
No one had seen him do it because he was a corporal, HW2, in charge of a section. And I remember him being very bitter because the sergeant had gone back to count rounds or something.
Oh, really?
As you get certain people.
Yeah, I think being in anti-tanks, the adaptation to the Javelin later on was a lot better, because
it was phenomenal.
It's just falling off the table there. Yeah, I mean, I remember using the Javelin. We used it in the Al Jazeera And something very similar happened to us too, where you know, we had a Ford recce party come through in an SUV, and he'd basically just come up to watch us or dick us. And as he was driving off, I had HM Infield with me.
Excellent guy.
And I was like that. I was on
Wasted. Went to the RAF.
Yeah, I was on the.
Messed up there.
I was on the man. I was like, "Shall I engage? Shall I engage?" And he was like, oh, "You know, wait." And we were waiting to get. You know, it was one of them classic ones where do we fire or don't we? Because no one had done it before.
Yeah.
You know, not live anyway. And then by the time it came to do it, the guy had gone.
Yeah.
And, you know, I think those lessons learnt later on, especially during the Herrick periods anyway, you're like that. Do you know what? Fuck it. You make this split decision, you make that decision, then you talk about it afterwards.
Yeah, I was lucky on the tour that I can honestly say that, you know, it was great from an instructional point of view afterwards. But I think if anyone says they're not scared in war, are complete liars or mad. But Herrick 9 for me, with 4-5, I was the unit HW1, and I was initially in the ops room, but we didn't have enough troop commanders, and they didn't have a troop sergeant with Victor, so I went to Kajaki, and as you know what Kajaki's like. And I can honestly say the time I was with the Victor company, I spent more time in contact in that short period of, I think it was just 4 months with them, than I ever did, ever in the Corps, every day in contact. You know, I still shake about it now. You know, they're saying live by the sword, die by the sword. If we would have stayed any longer, I think we'd have all died. You know, it was just, I can say now that I'm glad I've lived through that. But yeah, every day, you know, in your jackal, full on, you know, one day we was in 4 separate contacts in one day, you know, including, if you include a IED strike, or IED, should I say, IED find, if you include that as a contact, you know, every day, and engaging with the enemy every day. And it was just full on. And we were luckily backed by NOC, who was SC, obviously Special Forces, and he backed us to the hilt, what we did, you know. And yeah, it was a time that will live me forever, you know, having that GPMG at the front of a jackal, and learning, and old days of learning how to crest a bit. Not just driving on top of a building and silhouetting, learning. And I remember I didn't have to teach them, because when I got them, they'd been there a few months. But in the days of standing up in a jackal, if you stand up as a commander, as you raise a crest, you can see just over the top enough for the 0.5 to be next to your ear, to just get the 0.5 over the top of that crest of that hill, so you're not silhouetting the rest of the vehicle. You know, but that doesn't mean your GPMGs could be able to fire, and you learn to fire head on or back on, because if you lie sideways, the suspension has too much of a beating zone. So there's loads of little things that actually doing it for real. You know, if we are going to go right on the top of the hill, we need to fill some sandbags before we get to the top, to put some sandbags by the javelin gun, on the front. And if we don't, I'd be dead now if we wanted to build a sandbag wall on top of the thingy, because in fact, I've still got the round on the stairs where it hit the side of the door right next where I was firing. You know, so little things that you learn years ago suddenly came on that Herrick tour, came into light. You know, and we're looking at the footage afterwards. You know, you're like, oh my god, I can't remember that. Or us sat there filming a fucking A10 go past, and then watching the film afterwards. What we thought was shrapnel was actually people firing at us, and we didn't even realise, because of the noise of the A10 going past, we'd actually been sniped at. And it wasn't until watching the footage afterwards you're like, oh my god, that's a round. You know, it was just, yeah, crazy times, Kajaki.
I remember there was one point where we had Sky News with us, embedded with us, on Herrick 5, and they took some, you know, video footage of us and stuff, and at one point, I got caught out. We were getting shot at by a sniper, and I didn't have my helmet on, and I got absolutely loads of neat shit for that. Like everybody, OC's coming in, he's like that. Corporal Lyson, where's your helmet?
Yeah.
It's like that. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And then the other one, like you're saying there was footage of a Wimmick firing back into the green zone, and like you say, you don't. if you're close enough, you'll hear the tracers, see it. You know, if you're like, 50 meters away, it's blatantly obvious. But if it's over a distance away, you don't really hear it. You'll hear the crack, but you're not going to hear the one that hits you, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But you can hear the crack and thump when the rounds are hitting around you.
Yeah.
But in the middle of a contact, you don't hear that. So because there's loads of noise going on all the time, radio's going off, you've got all the guns firing and stuff. When we watched one of the bits of footage back that went out live on Sky News, there was one of the vehicles, and literally the ground, I do not know how this vehicle didn't get hit or the guys in it. It was like raining in the desert. There was just puffs of sand everywhere where like the rounds were just like hitting. It was like somebody had put like a bulletproof dome over the top of this vehicle. It was absolutely crazy. We were looking at each other afterwards back in the tent. We were going, fucking hell. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's amazing how close to the ground you can get, almost dig a trench with your teeth when rounds are coming in, how low you can really get, and perhaps going back to the same, especially you go back to the same areas and you go, did I really take cover behind that? Because it's like a stone, but at the time it was like the biggest hole in the world. It was a time that, and as a commander, as a colour sergeant, doing I suppose an officer's job really, and I say on operations, I've been a troop commander on the ground. I had times to stand back and control the fire, like almost on your like the junior command course, or 2IC stand back and control the fire and look, and that's what I used to do with the because the corporals were excellent. Stand back and control the fire, and obviously shooting head on. And I had the .5 above my head. You can't get on the radio when a .5 barrel is only feet above you. So I used to get out and stand back, and then that's when I got back in, and there was holes in my headrest. It's just pure luck about living and doing the job properly. But because the corporals were so well drilled, Sven, excellent soldiers, and that's why. And there was an RMR lad who I'd taken on his 3 course, and they'd all learnt very rapidly. Dave Taylor was there with the recce troop, and it's great to see old faces.
Jamie Hayward, Jamie was my first real section commander, when I was at FPG, so can you call it that? Maybe, I don't know, but Dave was my first like section commander, and he's the one who was on the ground with on Jacana.
So really,
Enduring Freedom.
I remember bumping into him at when I was with 4-2. Because Andy Murray TQ for a bit. Because he came back, he was with 40 and then came back.
Do you know what?
Another excellent.
My memory is so bad around that time, because again, it was one of those times where we were talking about you scared. All the time, and I was still kind of learning. I was a bit of a sprog. I didn't really know the main characters. Andy Murray was our who's a beefeater now in London.
That's right. Yeah.
Andy was was he TQ or Sergeant Major when I was in X-Ray Company when we were in Qasar. But
yes, again, we had a phase of certain HW sergeants in charge of tanks, and then suddenly we got an influx from 40 who took over, and Andy Merry was one of them, and Chappie was another, and it was just suddenly sergeants who actually want to do stuff and go in the field, not talk about the Falklands. Actually go and do stuff, and proper soldiering, and I think both were snipers as well, and and it was just really good to get people like that. So and then of course Dave Taylor, who's went ML, and he is just excellent. He actually wanted to join the forces as a padre because he's really into religion. And Dave is so very opinionated in that, but a brilliant soldier and a brilliant bloke. One of my best friends ever, Dave.
Yeah,
he'll do anything for you.
He's a typical guy that if you don't know him, you think he was either really awkward or sort of like very not straight laced. That's not the word. Strict.
But he had a horrendous upbringing, didn't he? Horrendous upbringing.
Do you know what? I've known Dave was a good friend of mine, and around that time, he used to invite me around to his house, and his missus would make us dinner and stuff. Do you remember? Dinger, Tanky Dinger?
Yeah.
So me and Dinger used to go around to his house and have
Again,
dinner
another
and stuff,
good soldier.
because we were all in the same section together, and I just remember having some super good times with him, and he actually taught me a lot as well, not by teaching, but by watching
and leading.
Yeah. And you know what?
I think we did about 2 or 3 jungles together, me and Dave, in the same section. And he's brilliant, just hard as nails. And one of these soldiers who weather doesn't affect him. And you're like, how is he not cold? Why isn't he shivering?
He's going to cringe at this because I know he's listening. He's out in the Middle East at the moment.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, I messaged him maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago.
I didn't make his top table, and I didn't realise afterwards that people from the unit had gone up, and I could have shared a lift. I was gutted I didn't go. But yeah, and there's like, but being in a troop like that, and then obviously mortars who we supposedly hate, and then like Dave Braxton and Richie Cartman again, and Mad Sam and Smudge, who are Mad Smudge is one of the craziest blokes I've met ever. I was on a training team with him, and that was silly.
Do you know what? You'll like this. So even though I'm a PTI and I have been for about 10 years now, I'm still tanky through and through. And I was doing a fitness test on the sports pitch the other day, and I was talking about drop shorts and stuff like that. and it was with support company as well. So all the mortars lads were like that. It makes me chuckle every single time, just because they can.
Yeah. Kajaki, they got us off the shit so many times. I'd never tell them, obviously. But they were fantastic. Yeah. Yeah. You meet some excellent guys in the Corps.
Yeah. Excellent. Mate, what we're going to do is we've done 1 hour and 20 there. I think we'll wrap this up here.
Okay, mate.
And we'll definitely do a second part, because we're literally we're at 2009-ish, so we've still got 10 years to go. Yeah, buddy. Still got 10 years to
about 5 minutes. I'm in the mess now.
Yeah. Yeah. Goose, thanks for coming on. I appreciate your time. And we'll speak again soon.
Cool. No problem.
Cheers, mate. And that's it. If you like the podcast, please like, share and subscribe on your podcast providers. And also follow us on the Grumpy Surfer podcast on Instagram. Thanks for listening.